The life of an IT guy is not as easy as it seems, but thanks to it, I've learned some lessons I will tell you today. First lesson: the sooner, the better. As a teenager, I was waiting for the moment when I would start learning programming and constantly postponed this moment, finding hundreds of excuses. As time went by, I only had more worries and responsibilities, making learning programming much more difficult. On top of that, I knew that, statistically, more success is achieved by people who started their way in childhood, as the brain at that age is more plastic to memorize new information and is open to everything new. This is why children achieve great success in chess and learning foreign languages. Second lesson: underestimation of soft skills. Mass culture has imposed on me the image of a programmer as an introvert who doesn't go outdoors and has a foul odor. But what a disappointment awaited me when I got into the real world and started my career. Regular meetings, discussion of problems, and calls with colleagues are only the tip of the iceberg that awaits you in the work of a programmer. Based on this experience, to avoid looking stupid at your job and be pleasant to your colleagues, I recommend spending time developing your soft skills, talking to a friend, finding new acquaintances in the community, or just reading books would have helped me achieve this success much earlier. Lesson 3: don't ignore health problems. When you are young and fresh, you think you can achieve anything and can't afford any illnesses. But all problems only catch up with you over time. Constant sleep deprivation leaves a mark on your face. Poor nutrition leads to acne and weight gain. And finally, my favorite, constant burnout leads to chronic stress and, as a consequence, depression. But as scary as it sounds, all of this can be avoided. Add exercise in the morning to your routine. Diversify your diet with plenty of fruits and vegetables. And remember to take a break during the workday. These tips help me improve my health and productivity one day. I hope they help you too. Lesson 4: don't ignore the basics. Algorithms and data structures seem useless to you. Do you find coders' levels tiring and the mention of "oop" makes you sleepy? I know the feeling. At the beginning of my journey, I spent little time on basic training and could hardly write a sorting bubble. These mistakes led me to fail at simple questions in job interviews, even though I passed the rest of the assignments with flying colors. This situation taught me an important life lesson about how fundamental knowledge is in a career. I also forgot to mention, if in the near future you want to progress and have the opportunity to get into the top companies such as Google and Amazon, without knowledge of computer science, you cannot do without. Level 5: reading other people's code. When I started writing articles, I was repeatedly given the same self-improvement advice: write a lot and read a lot. That's right. Read a lot. That's what I did and still do. I read a lot. I read to learn, to better understand grammar, and to understand how to construct and format sentences, paragraphs, and articles. Now, as a programmer, I read code for the same reasons. I read code to expand my programming knowledge and learn how to develop better programs. In both cases, reading is just part of the job. You need to read constantly to improve your skills as a prose or code writer. It's a shame I ignored this rule in the beginning. I thought there was nothing more boring than parsing and trying to understand someone else's work. But this is what helped to shape me as a specialist. Being able to quickly understand other people's ideas and adapt their writing style and best practices helped me grow once. Hopefully, it will help you too. Lesson 6: don't be squeamish about AI. Many programmers need to pay more attention to the emergence of AI and its impact on industry. Although many universities are already introducing additional courses for in-depth study of neural networks. Neural networks like GPT-Chat, Copilot, and Gemini are great for writing code and will speed up your progress. When they first appeared, I ignored them and paid for them over time. Once my colleague closed a task many times faster than me, which caused me unprecedented surprise and interest. After communicating with him, I started using neural networks on a regular basis, and I'm not jealous. The same GPT chat helps me perfectly with languages I am not very familiar with, and Copilot optimizes already written code. An important lesson from this is that you should always pay attention to new technologies to avoid being left behind in the near future. The seventh lesson is that you should never hold on to a job. At my first job, I met a terrible team leader who was toxic, had high expectations of me, and demanded more from me all the time. He didn't care about my constant dismotility and lack of energy, but instead of quitting, I held on to that place and tortured myself trying to get better. I didn't realize at the time that this asshole had set the bar too high for me to reach. As a consequence, I was fired. For some time after that, I thought of finishing my programming studies, but my acquaintance called me to try my hand at a new job interview. With minimal motivation, I went there. And as a result, I got my dream job. My new team leader spent hours explaining the details of the project and the peculiarities of the language and did everything he could to turn me into a strong junior. At that moment, I realized how stupid I was. And I always remembered, if you are uncomfortable somewhere, leave it. You don't have to put up with a cretineous boss and forgive all offenses. Eighth lesson. Interesting work. When I plunged into IT, I expected a very interesting job and dreamed of furthering my career. After a while, I, like many, brought my skills up to par and got a great foothold in web development. Except that's exactly what got me in the loop. My work routine was wearing me down considerably, and in trying to change it, I was horrified to realize that I would have to compromise my current comfort level in the name of new challenges. After that, I realized that it was not for me. So I left those ideas and continued to work at my job. The lesson from this is to prepare yourself in advance for hard and monotonous work, as creative people cannot survive in the world of IT. Lesson 9. Don't get caught up in the details. My worst character trait is to take apart a topic I like down to the last detail. This greatly increases the development pace, resulting in me sitting up nights to make it to the deadline. After a couple of such nights, I realized that it didn't matter which operator is better, that spending a couple of hours on finding a more minimal solution that will save 0.01% of memory is not the best idea for business. Eventually, I moved it to weekends, and it became a hobby of mine. When under a cup of tea and pleasant music, I understand the topic I like. It's the best thing that can be. As a result, after sleepless nights, I learned an invaluable lesson. You don't need to know how the system under the hood works. Your job is to solve the problem in a short period. Summary. It took me a few years before I learned these invaluable life lessons. And I'd love to see a video like this at a startup. That's why I'm now gifting this content to you. Believe in yourself. Listen to experienced programmers, and you'll save tons of time and effort.